with Salary Cap Analyst of the thirdapron.com, Yossi Gozlan. Yossi, thank you for joining us. Happy Monday.
Thanks for having me on today, Allen.
Let's start here, Yossi. Can you give us your thoughts? I have people tagging me in your YouTube video, and you do great work, of course. Love having you on. People were tagging me in the video that you made with the Pelicans moving up in the draft and acquiring Domantas Sabonis, and basically saying, hey, Allen, what do you think about this? And the conversation of what the Kings would get back. I have it right here. CJ McCollum, Jordan Hawkins, a couple first-round picks, $8 million saved. Kind of break down your thought process on that deal.
So that video is just mostly in the perspective of the Pelicans, that I could see them going after a guy like Sabonis or even Şengün if they're going to help facilitate a Giannis trade. I could see them going after one of those types of bigs. And then in facilitating a Giannis trade, they have the Bucks picks. Maybe they can leverage that to move up in the draft. As far as like, so that was mostly just like what's required from the Pelicans, I think, value-wise, salary-wise, to get a deal done. Wasn't so much something that I think the Kings would do, right. Especially because if, let's say the Kings do get to the point where they need to trade Sabonis, and this is one of the best offers they can get, and I actually think like draft picks-wise, that's a pretty good value. I don't think they're going to want to bring back CJ McCollum. I don't think they're going to want to bring back Jordan Hawkins. So like, I'm just kind of saying what the Pelicans would be sending out to make the money work. And then the Kings would probably get something else. They'd probably get a guard, like an actual point guard back. They'd probably want to get a wing back, or they, if they're trading Sabonis, they're going to need a big man back. So, so yeah, not so much like that's mostly in the perspective of the Pelicans.
Yeah.
I don't think the Kings are going to trade Sabonis just yet, but if I'm sure they're going to go get a guard, try to get another wing and run it back. And if things don't work out, maybe by the trade deadline, that's something the Kings could decide to do.
Yeah, well, obviously you never know. Everyone says, well, now that Luka got traded, you really never know what could happen. Talking to Yossi Gozlan, NBA salary cap analyst for the thirdapron.com. And speaking of the offseason, Yossi, why are there so many rumors, you think, right now about the potential of this offseason being so big? Is it just the names are out there? Is it the CBA and, the first apron, second apron, people trying to get under the luxury tax? Why is it that there's so many rumors about this offseason possibly being filled with fireworks?
I think this is kind of the story every offseason now. There's a lot of hype that there's going to be a lot of moves at this offseason is going to be the biggest ever, and then the trade deadline is going to be the biggest deadline ever. And in some degree, for the most part, I always kind of keep my expectations lower because over the past few years, there's like not that much cap space. It's not really a thing teams are doing to go after players anymore, build their teams. Now every team, they're just extending all their players. They're like, most teams are already like right at the tax with the full rosters. So I think what people are pointing to this offseason is that there's kind of a bottleneck of there's too many teams with too many expensive rosters. They need to do something, but there's not a lot of money to go around other than like the Nets. They are the only team with cap space. So there's going to be some type. I do think that I've stopped trying to, every year I kind of keep my expectations low, but they always get surpassed. So I know there's a lot of hype that this is probably going to be one of the biggest off seasons. And right now, it's hard to see like exactly what that would entail, but somehow it always comes true. So it might end. So yeah, I could see there being some really big moves ever since the Luka trade. Now, like now I'll buy all the hype
right
ahead of any transaction period.
Let's talk some Kings specifically now. What do you think about DeMar DeRozan's value? We keep going back and forth. He's at a little bit over $24 million. We know he's an elder statesman, but only one team is going to get Kevin Durant, and there are a couple teams out there that just need a bucket getter. We've gone back and forth with DeMar's value. I feel like I've underrated it at one point. I've overrated it at other points. What do you think about DeMar DeRozan's value to other teams in the league?
I would say it's somewhere between mostly negative and maybe neutral at best, but like I would say at more likely slightly negative, just because. And I think we may have talked about this before. He's just a guy that's very hard to plug into many teams.
Yeah.
He's getting a little older. He's still got another year on the contract after this, with a big partial guarantee. So as I look around the market, the Kings are either going to get. It seems like the Kings are going to trade him. They might have to package like a pick to along with him to bring in someone that fits your timeline.
Yeah.
The question is, what are you going to target first? Do you want to get a better wing, maybe a little more defensive oriented to replace him? Or is that how you want to address guards, point guard specifically? But as far as like where he could go, it's really tough. I've seen people talk about teams like the Lakers or Clippers or Heat, and I'm not even sure those teams necessarily make sense. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a bigger deal where the Kings get the type of wing or point guard they want, but DeRozan ends up on a team like the Nets or the Wizards that are rebuilding. Like the Wizards, they're like this dumping ground now for all these veterans like Chris Middleton, Marcus Smart. I think I'm missing someone. They had Brogdon. It wouldn't surprise me if like that's kind of where he ends up, like that type of situation. So the Kings can get the whatever piece they need to retool the roster.
Speaking of retooling the roster, how would you assess the Kings' path to success? And when I say success, I just mean making the playoffs.
It's going to be tough. And I think last time you had me on, I don't remember if it was before or after the Fox trade, but the big challenge with the Kings is that they've got Levine and the Sabonis making max level money. And, Levine, he's making like close to 48 million. I'm just looking at their cap sheet. Sabonis making 42 million. Like that's a lot of money for guys that aren't top 20-ish players. And that's already clogging up a lot of their cap sheet. So they already have a lot of challenges towards like what I think the two things they need to address, get a better 3-and-D wing and get an actual point guard rotation. And I'm guessing they're not going to want to pass the luxury tax, but they're already heading into the summer like 20 million below it. So they're probably, I expect them to, get a couple guards, probably in the free agency market, trade DeRozan to get a wing, or, maybe it'll be the opposite, trade DeRozan for the guard, try to get a wing in free agency. I just struggle to see how exactly they're going to get back into the playoffs in a loaded West when you're already so limited with like trying to construct the back end of this roster with a budget. I feel like ultimately the next time the Kings make the playoffs, it's probably going to have to be sometime after they move at least one of Levine or Sabonis and redistribute that money, because it's just too much money there. It's really limiting what they could do with the rest of the roster.
Yossi, last one for you, talking to Yossi Gozlan, NBA salary cap analyst for thirdapron.com. I will say this. There's a lot of conversation going on about tanking, right? And with the Thunder and their situation and the Rockets being a 2 seed, everyone's saying we should just tank. We should just tank. What we talked about earlier on the show is, well, for every Thunder and every Rockets, they're the Hornets who have been tanking forever, and they're the Wizards who've been tanking for a very long time. I don't know what the Trailblazers are going to be. Do you think tanking looks a little sexier now because of the Thunder and the Rockets, or do you think it is still the best path to really get to the promised land, especially if you're a smaller market?
I think after this lottery where we saw the Mavs, who are supposed to have the 11th or 12th pick, move up to 1, the Sixers move up to 3, who was number 2? The Spurs were supposed to have the 8th pick, they move up to 2.
Right.
I think that makes tanking less sexier. If you're one of these teams you just mentioned, like specifically the Wizards, the Jazz, that moved down 4 spots instead of getting a top 1 or 2 pick, now that might change the strategy for some of these teams. Instead of trying to bottom out so aggressively, okay, maybe you still aim for a lottery pick, try a little harder, let your guys play in a bit more competitive environment, and then just see where the luck takes you, because this was absolute chaos. And I think now I'm sure there's still going to be teams that are going to be aggressively trying to bottom out just because, you want to have the best odds for
Right.
a top pick if there's someone up there that you're targeting. But now this lottery may have changed how some teams, the degree to how aggressive some teams will bottom out.
Yossi, you're a numbers guy. What did you think when you did see the Mavs come up? Was there any thought of rigged going through your mind? Or hey, probability say anything can happen.
When I just felt like, what a bailout after everything they've gone through, after what they did, the most like the talk about failing forward, like that. It just like, imagine if they actually got like a really good haul for Luka, along with getting Cooper later. That would have made like the decision to trade Luka look a lot better. That return was pretty weak, but it wasn't rigged. Obviously, they always show like how it goes after, but definitely not probably the result I wanted the least to get number one pick.
Yeah, I'm sitting there watching, and obviously the Kings were, got eliminated pretty darn quick. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, go to the Eastern Conference, not go to the Eastern Conference. And I'm thinking, with De'Aaron Fox with the Spurs, I'm being a hater saying, well, don't go to the Spurs. I wasn't even paying attention to the Mavericks till the very end. And then I thought, this is actually worse. I wish it had gone to the Spurs just on principle, Yossi. But thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to check out all of Yossi's work on thirdapron.com. Be sure to also check him out on YouTube, always putting out great content. Yossi, will definitely have you on again soon. I hope it's a fast off season. I'm not sure if it will be, but sounds like there are going to be plenty of fireworks.
Thanks for having me on, Allen. Thanks.
That was Yossi Gozlan, NBA salary cap analyst for the thirdapron.com.